All right, welcome back, everybody. Pinnacoos Hay Farm. Oh my gosh, where have I been, huh? Jeez, disappeared for almost, was it 8 and 9 months? Last time we talked, we were wrapping up, I think, the 2023 season. Now it's 2024. Already halfway through July. Oh my gosh, so much has been going on here. I apologize for not really being making any videos lately. I think I said it in the first video or the very first one I made last year. You know, it's kind of tough doing the operation side of this farm pretty much by myself. We're handling 80 acres. So the farm comes first. I think that's always something I've said and believed and keep reiterating. Farms comes first. So, I mean, if I can film and document some stuff, that's good, great. But sometimes it just gets so busy and so backed up that just don't get a lot of time to pick up the camera. So this is kind of my attempt at trying to wrap up a Sunday. But having said that, we are in first cut. Actually, we're wrapping up first cut. So here's our big bales that we have. These came from first cut. Again, I'm a grass hay farmer, so I have a lot of brome grass that I use out here. Horses love it, llamas love it. Cows, sheep, and everybody else will definitely tolerate it. Don't know if they love it, but I find like the pickier animals tend to be the horses and the llamas. So the brome hay, definitely a winner for me. As we look back here in the barn, I don't know if you guys can see back that far as I can. There's about 6 rows back of big bales. 6 per row here, so 6, 6. So again, about 36 bales there. Then we have, I want to say 9 more here on this side. So I think when we brought in, about 52 bales. Got rid of a few already, so that's good. And then big bales was kind of a new thing for me this year. I did have some last year of some alfalfa grass mix. But this is all just straight brome. First cut is, for me, is always brome. Comes in early, comes in thick, kind of crowds out everything else. Once that's done and we move from that cut into the second cut tends to be more of the diverse grasses. The summer grasses come in once it heats up around here. That's when we usually get the mystery weed of the year. Last year, I remember it was Philadelphia Bane. A lot of little white flowers on it, dried, really crusty looking thing. This year, our mystery weed that's growing in is a buckhorn plantain. So buckhorn plantain is what we got this year, and a lot of it. I was stoked because I thought it was my Timothy coming in. We had planted in some orchard grass, a high temperature Timothy, and a meadow brome into the smooth brome that we already have out here. And we did 2 overseedings of that, one in the fall, one in the spring. But as you guys look out here, you can see this is not Timothy. I thought it was, and that's just me being transparent and honest. But this is not Timothy. This is buckhorn plantain, and it is everywhere. You see all that golden stuff? That's all the buckhorn plantain. The brome, which is a cool season grass, actually came in really good, really heavy. We had about almost 2.75 tons per acre. With that, just kind of, again, it comes in pure in the spring. Once it warms up, we get into like the end of June. It just stalls out. So that's what you have here on the ground. All this right here is my brome that's just kind of stalled out. It's still about 6-8 inches high, but it'll kind of fire up again as we get closer to the end of August into September. But we got to be careful because you get past that second week of September, temperatures drop, not as much daylight, so it's harder for grasses to dry out. But other than that, I'm trying to think what else is out here. In the first year that we planted out here, I didn't really know what the market was going to be like, so I put out a different type of mix that included alfalfa before I realized that I actually have a pretty high market with just grass hay. So there's alfalfa that comes in the second cut, and it'll remain a little bit into the third cut when the brome starts coming back up again. But I was kind of hoping that seeding with the orchard grass and the high temp Timothy that would kind of take over, and then over time the alfalfa would kind of phase itself out. It didn't really even show up last year when we did a lot of last year's cut, but as you can see right here, it's pretty heavy in some spots. It's patchy. There's a patch here, there's a little patch way over there, and then after that there's really not much else going out that way, just the buckhorn. So what we're probably going to do, and it's nice and thick in this area, see? I mean, I kind of got to figure that out. Am I going to be doing alfalfa or am I going to be doing grass? You know, I kind of want to go one way or the other with it. And if I do alfalfa, I want to do a good thick alfalfa. So I'm thinking maybe an alfalfa orchard mix, or if I want to get rid of the alfalfa completely, do an orchard grass and stay with the high temperature Timothy. That's probably something I'm probably going to steer toward, because I already have the established clientele in grass hay. Don't really want to take on new customers and try to find people for alfalfa, even though I know there's people that will settle for it, especially to get into those winter months. February, March, people are just looking for any kind of hay. They'll take whatever. Still, I like to be known by reputation. I like to know that I'm still trying to create a quality product. Here, look at this. That's a nice headed Timothy right there. This is what I thought it was coming out, and I thought when the buckhorn was coming in that it was going to turn into this. So I'm out here being patient, waiting. I'm like, oh man, just keep watering it and stuff like that. And then a friend of mine let me in on the secret. He's like, you know, that ain't Timothy. So we looked at the bottom, and you can see toward the bottom here. Got a really broad leaf on the bottom. And I'm kind of nervous. I think that when I cut that and let it sit for a couple days to dry out, it might brown up a little bit, maybe even blackenish a little bit. I don't know what that's going to look like in a bale. So I made the decision to do one, clear out all the fields. So we're just going to knock it all down either this week or next week with the buckhorn, with the alfalfa, and whatever grass is present. We'll probably cut it down to about 3-4 inches off the ground. We'll probably go ahead and big bale it. And if the yields are similar, grass is actually pretty high for what it is, but if it's similar to what it was in first cut, I would be estimating would be get about 90 big bales out of the property. And I'll just kind of line them up over on the gravel on the road down there. And that'll be kind of liquidated down for cow hay customers, sheep, goats, anybody that wants it. I mean, some people will actually feed it to other animals. I mean, who am I to tell people what to feed to their animals? But I'm pretty honest up front about what's in my bales. So again, the primary stuff, that was my first cut. You know, this stuff will establish itself into whatever it needs to be, and we'll kind of tweak it into being more appropriate next year. This year, we're just gonna level the fields, big bale, about 90 bales of that I'm expecting. We'll spray down, spray out probably everything else that's in here, the buckhorn, probably the alfalfa too, get it down to where it's just grass. And I'm hoping in the September growth for third cut, we'll have more back into a pure grass mix. Either way, I mean, I have a market for most anything that pops up out of the ground nowadays. So I'm not worried about it, but quality wise, you know, and again, by reputation, you know, I like to have just a homogeneous product across all 80 acres. Now, if you look here, you can see that this is kind of where the ditch lines were in the past, the flood irrigation, and then it would kind of trickle down the field, gravity flow. Since we've got the pivot going now, all this has been disked, and I've showed you this in the past. We disked it down, it was just bare dirt. We'll probably set the drone up later and you can kind of see those areas. This has actually been seeded in orchard grass, Timothy, and meadow brome. But you can see, like, in order to get the weeds that grow in there too, in order to eliminate those out, you have to let it grow to a certain spot. You have to let the grass establish. And when you do that, the weeds get established too. So it grows a certain height. We spray down the weeds, give it a chance to die off, about 10 days or so. Come back through, mow it down. And then what should be left is grass. And that's kind of what we have here. Only thing is that now I got these splotches of dead grass that's here because the harvest was so high, which leads me to believe that orchard grass probably is the way to go in the future. You know, it's a little more temperate in the warm temperatures, so I think that's kind of that's what I'm going to be aiming to do at the end of third cut this year. I'll probably disc down half the property and take it to just orchard grass and Timothy. We'll be selective on the brome. I'd like to do brome. Horses love brome, llamas love brome. but it's only good for one cut. So, you know, after you get to that, around here, everyone does their first cut on July 1st. I do mine about the second week of June, but once I do that first cut, you know, that brome is kind of, it goes to sleep until the end of August. Here, this is a pond. This is that pond that used to sit right here. Big, deep one too. Filled it in as best we could, tried to level it out. A lot of that dirt settled in. You can see the pivot track that goes down that way. It's actually not very deep at all. But I will show you where there is a very deep pivot track and some very deep pivot tracks. So here you kind of see, again, we talk about the ditches, how the grass actually grew in really good, really thick because of the mixture. In the areas where we have the just the brome and then the alfalfa, this is kind of like, that's the actual field. Doesn't do too good in the summer months. So again, spring, awesome, wonderful, great, good. Here's a better visualization right here. So here we have, you see all this high, thick grass right here. This is the orchard grass, and it's got the weeds in it. And so this is where we spray to kill out the weeds. Then we give it some time. Once the weeds are dead, you can see them kind of crumbling up over in those areas. Now we go through and we can cut all this down, big bale it, and that'll be added into what we're going to be doing with the whole property. This will all be cow hay, goat hay, sheep hay, whatever. Here I tried to make a little border so that people don't let their tractors fall in when it's time to cut. But yeah, this stuff is so thick and so promising. I think that's going to be my go-to for next year. Here, as you see, this is kind of getting back into the established field. This is the brome. So this is the brome with what was supposed to be some of the orchard grass, Timothy. I just don't think it took this spring in the field that when we did it this way, because we just tried to overseed in without tilling or disking. But I think you got to get it disked all the way down in order for that seed drill to really be effective. So in its place, once the warm temperatures took off, you know, you guys can kind of see again all this buckhorn plantain just shooting up. So again, I thought that was my Timothy. I was excited. A big thick field of Timothy. Turns out nope. So what I'll do again, spray it down, or cut it, bale it, cow hay, spray down the field after that. And then going into third cut in this, or middle of September, we should have just grass left. So I look at it as just, it's another cut that we wouldn't have had anyway if we just did what we've traditionally done, which is have one cut in July or the end of June, and then one cut like the second week of September. You're just watering the ground for a few months just to try to keep the ground moist and keep the grass from yellowing out, but it doesn't really grow, at least the spring grasses. They really go to sleep once you get to like a 82, 83 degree temperature. We're going to cross over the little ditch here. You can see the intake for the pivots right there. There's a screen underneath there, so the water is actually all the way up to the top on that screen. It goes underneath here, gets sucked in to the pump. Got a big old pump here. And then that feeds into a T-junction that's down here where those sunflowers are. And then it takes a left to this pivot pad. And then there's also a shoot straight down to the right, goes to the south pivot pad. So I'd like to go in the field and show you guys what's at. But this was field 4, so this was all dirt last year. Prairie dogs, thistle. Remember that big old patch of thistle where we drove the tractor through? It's probably about 6 feet high. That was what all this was last year. So we disked it, seeded it, fertilized it, watered it. Again, weeds came up with it, but we sprayed those down. Now it's just like crumbled up thistle in there, some other stuff. So we'll cut it, big bale it, add it to that stack. And that's probably going to be what we do with the whole property, because again, you can see that looks good. It's got all the orchard grass in it, nice and high, so that's what we want going forward. But then you can see kind of in this patch over here, that's field 7. Field 7 is nothing but brome. There's nothing got seeded into it. So, oh, there's a deer way over there. I don't know if you guys can see that deer. GoPros don't let you really zoom in the way you'd want to, but yeah, field 7 is just brome and it's just not doing anything. It's just dormant because it's so warm. So I'm waiting for the fall for that to see if we can get a little bit more out of that. So a good chunk of what we get for the year is going to be first cut if we just do the brome grass. So it's more of an incentive to go ahead and try to play with the Timothy and the orchard grass, because as you look from over there where there's no grass, where it's brome, then we got this stuff where the buckhorn was and all this stuff's kind of blowing in. Over here's the ditch line. So again, this is where we planted the orchard grass and stuff, and it's really like pretty lush in here. So again, we sprayed down. Hopefully it kills off all the weeds. You can see the thistles dying right here. Once we get this cleared out, should be good for third cut. What we'll probably do next year is I think we're going to take from this ditch line that we just crossed over everything this way. I think that hasn't been already. There's another big field over there that we did when we did this field here. So we took about 30 more acres and we put that into production this year, but because of the weeds, we won't get it for second cut. Might get a little bit on third cut. Along with that, we're going to add 3 more fields on this side. Disc them. We'll probably plow them, disc them, let them sit over the winter. We'll seed them in the spring or redisc again in the spring, seed them, fertilize them, and hopefully we get similar results as we do when we're out here when we're looking across field 4. You can see the tire tracks in there. So some good deep grass in here. Now I want to just kind of create this on the rest of the property because this orchard grass really does good in warm temperatures like how it is right now. So rather than just have the one really good cut of brome, I'd like to get the 3 cuts of orchard grass if I can, or at least maybe do half the property in brome and half the property in orchard grass. That way I can have 3 cuts, even though it's technically 1 cut of brome, 2 cuts of orchard grass. I don't know. I'm just figuring this out as I go. And I don't know. Farming's fun though. Trying to figure out what you're doing, what you're going to be doing, where to go, how you react to things. It's important. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get back over. Okay, same way we came, I guess, through the willows. Yeah, and if you look down this ditch bank here, you see the willows, red willows that are here. There's all kinds of weeds and stuff like that. That is how it looks kind of if you let this get out of hand. But we're trying to knock it back. We'll probably bring in the flail mower again this year and just let it kind of hang off the side and just kind of cut into those where the ditch is in, kind of recesses down. So that mower kind of offsets, so you can just kind of cut down. So I'll probably do that again this year, just to keep them knocked back. We'll probably spray again this year. I don't know. It's cumbersome, but I like it. You know, I really do like farming. But yeah, you can see again on this ditch line here, or where the old flood irrigation ditches used to be right here, and it's a lot of ground there. It's probably about 80 feet wide of just new production land that we're going to have, and we're going to have it in third cut. So what I'll probably do tonight is I'll hook up the rake to the tractor and see if I can get up all this dead grass so it doesn't kill, because there's a lot of good grass underneath here, and I got to make sure this dead stuff doesn't shadow it out and then it dies because there's no sunlight to get into it. So we worked hard to try to get this reestablished. I'll get you guys some drone footage because I want to kind of look over this, see the way it's looked. But again, just want to apologize because I know I wanted to bring you guys out here when I was fertilizing, when we were seeding, when we were irrigating, walk you through first cut. I just didn't have enough manpower to be able to get off the equipment or to really get on the camera to document anything. It was more about do as much as we could, and even then I came up short and I didn't get all the bales into the barn, so we came up about 700 bales short that got rained on because I couldn't get them in the barn. I was stacking it myself and my hands were hurting, and I did as much as I could. I got about 800 bales into the barn. My help didn't show up this year, so maybe, or at least this cut, so maybe this next cut, maybe I can get some help on that. We'll see. But I'm looking to go probably more mechanized in the future, so I'm gonna see if I can help get some of my customers into go into big bales so we can just use tractors, or look at doing bundling or something. I like doing things kind of on my own by myself. I'm an introvert, so I don't mind that, but I would like, you know, I like it to be easier if it can be, because lifting a few hundred small bales gets your hands get all swollen and puffy and start stinging after a while. So sun's going down, guys, but I do want to add in some drone footage so you guys can kind of see the property, what it looks like. Again, a little lengthy on the monologue today, but I wanted to kind of get you guys caught up. And again, look at this. Look at that alfalfa. Alfalfa looks cool, huh? I seeded it like 2 years ago. Last year it didn't come in at all. Now it's coming in. I don't understand how things really work here, but you know, at least we have consistent watering now with the pivot, so at least irrigation isn't the excuse anymore. Glad I got it. Definitely will. I keep promising we're going to do pros and cons on that thing one day. Let's see what else. Oh, for the harvest, our first cut, we ended up with about 820 small bales that we were able to get in the barn. Also ended up with a little over 50 big bales. All of this is just straight grass brome. Second cut, we'll probably be looking at about 80 to 90 big bales, more liquidated out. Third cut, I'm hoping, and we'll probably put another 3 to 4 tons of fertilizer out here again. Hopefully it'll all just be grass going into that, and temperatures come down a little bit, maybe the brome will take off again. So as we come around with the drone here, taking our way, taking a look at field 1, you can see the pivot tracks there. You see the patchy alfalfa. Everything that's golden is still that buckhorn plantain. Also, as we go along this is where all the plowed up ditches are, and you can kind of see where the dead grass is kind of inside the tire tracks there. Everything you see in terms of tire tracks, left side, right side of this ditch line here, where all the red willow is, that's all the tire tracks from the spraying truck. So when the truck came through, it sprayed all down all of those ditch lines, and in doing so, it killed off most of the thistle and the weeds that are in there. So now, as we go into third cut, that should come up as just pure grass now in the future. And then again, we just have to eradicate all the willows and stuff like that that's in this ditch line here. But you can see where all the tracks have been from the weed spraying, and all that is where the lush grasses will be for this next coming harvest. Again, you can see the pivot tracks here from the south pivot as we come down toward the south side of the property. Coming out of field 3 and 5, we're making our way toward the square field 6 that's down here toward the bottom. And again, you can see again the tire tracks as they go down into this draw on the left side there. That's where field 8 kind of begins, but in that draw is in the past where all the standing water has gathered from all of the flood irrigation. So that's always been heavy with cattail, foxtail, red willow, chicory. It's all kind of been gathered up in that area. But this last year, again, since we had the pivot, we were able to disc down all that stuff and try to make it to where hopefully in the future it'll just be one long, big, continuous field. But as we kind of continue over here toward the pivot now, you kind of get an idea of how big the property really is. And as it carries where it's at now, this is considered field 8, or actually field 9. And field 9, again, you see all those tire tracks in there. This is all brand new field here. Everywhere we see these tire tracks from that pivot pad all the way to the right side of here, this was all dirt thistle last year. So yeah, all that whole big patch right there, which is one of the biggest fields we have between this field and the one on the north side where we looked at the other earlier. That's actually adding almost 20 acres of property that we didn't have last year. So even though we seeded it and it came up weedy for now, this is all going to get cut, put into big bale, and this is all coming into production this year. Now, as we come down into the pivot area, I'm gonna see if I can get a little closer here. Try not to hit this thing and mess up my drone, but see if we can get a little better idea. This was really heavy in weeds, but most of that has crumbled down a little bit now. So again, as we go into third cut, I'm really hoping this really looks a lot better. And you can see the sprinklers actually on over here, watering the ground. We're putting down about 1 inch or about 2 days per revolution is what it takes to get about 1 inch down. Once the ground's nice and saturated, I'll probably switch it up to maybe 1.25 inches, just to make sure that that saturation kind of goes further down into the roots for the grass. This line you see here between these 2 pivot pads is kind of just loaded with weeds. And then as we go to the right here, you see this is all just other people's property, anything that's not green. With the exception of that to the north, which is actually my neighbor's. He does really well with his farm too, so I'm really proud of him. But as we kind of get ourselves set back up to the north here, everything you see in the green area here, as we go up to the house, you can see the barns up there on the top left side. This is all us trying to put all this land back into production. So in the past, you know, I've had a hard time flood irrigating all this area here, all the prairie dog holes, the elevation changes. Right here underneath the camera, you see that's our dark alfalfa patches. Not a lot of them. So again, it's been kind of hit and miss with the alfalfa. Try to get us real close to the ground here. You can see a lot of that buckhorn still coming in. So again, I'm not sure how that really came about into the field. It wasn't there in the first cut. Just once the temperatures warmed up, that's kind of what sprouted out in the fields. As we make our way back toward the barns here, just kind of want to do a flyby of fields 3 and then coming back into field 1. Again, you can kind of see all this established field here, heavy, and over here in field 1, we're heavy in alfalfa. You know, it's hopeful, but again, document what I do, keep a journal, try to make it better than last year. But that's about it for today, guys. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Hoping I can make some more videos through the summer. Show you guys a little more of what we're actually doing out here, not just the after game event. But lots of plans, guys. So again, thank you for being patient with me. Keep farming, keep being interested in it. Tell people about the channel if you can. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment if you'd like. Tell some friends. Let's see if we can get them to subscribe. And we'll keep rolling with it, all right? So I'm glad you guys were able to join me today. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.